Welcome into the Cowboys Report. I am your host, Tom Downey. This time on today's video with some news to discuss. A familiar face has returned to the Cowboys organization. Rondell Carter has been claimed by the Dallas Cowboys. Now remember, in case you forgot I should say, the Cowboys have claimed Carter if the Colts cut him because the Colts had signed Carter off the Cowboys practice squad earlier this season. The Cowboys had been protecting Rondell Carter on that practice squad. They gave him a large signing bonus coming out of James Madison as an undrafted free agent, but the Colts came through on a Monday before the practice squad protections go into place and were like, hey, come join our active roster. Carter jumped at that opportunity, but he never actually played for the Indianapolis Colts, and former Cowboys coach Matt Eberflus, who is their now defensive coordinator, they were getting guys back healthy, so they chose to release Rondell Carter. He was subject to waivers because it is after the NFL trade deadline, and the Cowboys claimed they had one of the earliest priority waiver claims, and they took advantage of the chance to get him back on the roster because what do we know about the Cowboys? Well, they like their guys. So are you glad the Cowboys were able to get back Rondell Carter? Simple yes or no question. Simple Y or N for the response. Type yes for no, type Y for yes, or type in N for no, as I'm an idiot so far apparently today, if you are glad the Cowboys got back Rondell Carter. Now, at James Madison, which again, James Madison, home of Ben DiNucci, which hasn't turned out so well for the Cowboys at that spot. But he had great production his final year, right? 66 tackles, a ridiculous 27 tackles for loss, 12 sacks, 1 forced fumble. Now, Carter played defensive end for James Madison. And that's where I'm going to list him on the Cowboys depth chart. But I do want to make note, I think you could see him play more of that defensive tackle, defensive end hybrid role. The same thing we've seen Tyrone Crawford play for years now for this Cowboys organization. He's 260-something pounds. That's fairly big for almost 270, I should say. He can kick inside. You have Neville Gallimore as a pass-rushing defensive tackle. Woods and Hamilton and Ellie Anaku are more run stoppers. Justin Hill's out for the year. So I think if and when Carter plays some, you'll see him lined up more potentially as an interior defensive lineman. Hopefully this doesn't cut into any potential snaps for Bradley and I, but, I wouldn't mind seeing less snaps for Dorrance Armstrong and Tyrone Crawford on passing downs, because those guys aren't very good, yet let's play the young players instead, and Carter certainly fits that mold. As a reminder, today's show is made possible by our sportsbook partner, BetUS. Head over to chatsports.com/bet and use the promo code you see on your screen. That is Cowboys125. It'll get you a 125% deposit bonus. So, boom, put down $100, extra 125 coming your way for free. And then, by the way, for new BetUS customers only, you just saw it change below me. Email us, cowboys@chatsports.com. We've mentioned the bet cover deal hundreds of times here on the show. Well, maybe it's like dozens of times because we only brought it back for this week. But we are still going to do that for this upcoming game against the Minnesota Vikings. If you bet on the Cowboys to cover and they don't, you know what? I'll take care of you up to $50 on any potential losses that you have as a result of that bet. Email us, cowboys@chatsports.com, if you want more details. Now, part of the decision to claim Rondell Carter also comes at the cost of one Takk McKinley. The Cincinnati Bengals were awarded Takk on waivers today. That's been officially announced by the Bengals. The Cowboys had the higher waiver claim. They didn't put one in for Takk McKinley. Dallas shows once again, hey, they like their guys. They wanted to go with Rondell Carter. That's the defensive lineman they wanted to add. They pass on Takk McKinley, the former first-round pick out of UCLA, who Rod Marinelli was a big-time fan of, and had the Falcons not traded up in that NFL draft class ahead of the Cowboys to take McKinley, I think he would have been a Dallas Cowboys player. In the end, they pass on and they say, no, we don't want Takk McKinley. They wanted to go with Rondell Carter instead, which in the end I get that. I think at some level it does come down to hey, that's the guy we know. Takk McKinley, as talented as he might be, he hasn't been the most, I'll say, level-headed player since entering the NFL. More or less got himself cut by the Falcons. I think that was a bit of a red flag for Dallas. But who would you guys have rather signed? Let me know what you think here in the comments section. You can type in C for Rondell Carter, or you can type in M for Takk McKinley. Now, I'm going to give my thoughts on this here in just a second, but if you get the ad break here on YouTube, scroll on down and get your votes in. C for Carter, M for McKinley. Look, I would have been fine going either way on these guys. I would like to see what maybe Takk McKinley could have done, but I think bringing in Rondell Carter might also allow you to have some success with playing both Bradley and I and Carter. I think you can play Carter on the inside more. Playing Takk and an I, one on the inside, wasn't really going to work out. So if it leads to more playing time for Bradley and I, I'm on board with the signing of Rondell Carter. Now, we're going to keep you covered on everything around America's team here. So if you haven't already, hit that big red button and subscribe today. That way you don't miss out on anything around the Dallas Cowboys. We did our mock draft earlier today. Go check it out if you haven't already. But I had to get you this news as well. So hopefully you guys appreciate it and subscribe. I know a lot of you guys already have. You're the real MVPs. Thank you so much. And just as we were wrapping up filming our Rondell Carter news piece, some more news. Tyrone Crawford has now been placed on the COVID-19 list for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the report that came out earlier this morning was the Cowboys had no negative tests on Tuesday. This might simply be a closer contract tracing thing. The details aren't really known at this point, but the Cowboys now have their second player going on the reserve COVID-19 list. For this season, they had some earlier in the offseason. Of course, the much-discussed Andy Dalton. Now Tyrone Crawford going on the list here as well. Again, the details as we finish up filming this are not really known at this point. It's still very early in that. Literally, this just happened as I sit here filming this. So I'm sure we'll get more details in the next couple of hours and days and whatnot. But Crawford on the reserve COVID-19 list. I don't know if he tested positive or if this is just close contract tracing or not. But he is on the COVID-19 list. Maybe a coincidence, maybe not. Just hours after the Cowboys claim, not even hours, less than an hour, after the Cowboys claim defensive lineman Rondell Carter. Looking ahead now to, hey, when could the Cowboys see Rondell Carter play? Well, they're on bye, so even going through all the COVID stuff, he will be eligible to play against the Minnesota Vikings. And that comes in Week 11. Then you've got Washington and Baltimore, part of that very tight. You got 3 games in a very short period of time. Always tough on players. I think you might see some Carter at that point. The Bengals in Week 14. Speaking of Takk McKinley, might get to see him play for Cincinnati. The Niners come to town in Week 15. As of right now, that is the Sunday Night Football game. I do wonder, however, if that game will end up getting flexed because, well, both those teams aren't that great. The reality is for the Cowboys, it's a lost season. So going out and adding a very young player off of waivers, one you know, one you like, I'm on board with that decision in the end. Carter might be here next year. Can't say the same for certain about Takk McKinley, who may or may not have fetched you a comp pick. It's impossible to know at this point. You're not going to catch the Philadelphia Eagles. You might win some games down the stretch here with the way the defense has been playing, and we'll see just how big of a role Rondell Carter ends up playing for this team. But they wanted to get him back on the roster. They took the advantage of it, didn't even bother to risk waiting for him to clear waivers and trying to sign him onto the practice squad. So give me your one-word reaction here to the Dallas Cowboys claiming Rondell Carter. Was it smart, silly, whatever? Man, we got a whole bunch of different options here. So let me know in the comment section what your one-word reaction, just one word, you can't pick 5 different words, one is only allowed for this particular question, to Dallas claiming and getting a chance to reunite with defensive lineman Rondell Carter.